Hey guys, check out the episode today. It is amazing. Chris Waters showers his brilliance down on us. He's pretty awesome. If you haven't talked to him yet, you need to get all up in this and check it out. Chris Waters.
Are you ready, Christian?
I'm ready.
Are you sure?
Oh,
here we go.
there's the theme song.
Woohoo!
Does he hear the theme?
We get up and dance a little
Can
bit,
you
just
hear
get our
the music,
energy
Chris?
going. So just hold a second.
I'm gonna go out of the shot because
Is the
otherwise
Real
I'm the
Estate
only one who can
Podcast.
see.
Just like a whole lot of.
You should turn him to the foreshot so you
an
can
amazing
see it.
business, so you can build an amazing life.
Can you turn him that way so you can see the
The
foreshot?
Boom Real Estate Podcast
I could, but
starts now.
Not worth it.
too late. Oh, and it is time to begin.
Todd, you look nice in your blacks and grays.
It is time to begin. It is time to begin.
Todd.
It is Welcome to the Boom Real Estate Podcast, everybody. To my left is Todd. Are you chewing gum? Wait, hold on. Are you chewing gum?
No, I am not. I was doing Elvis.
I thought you were chewing gum. I was going to have you spit it out in my hand.
In your hand.
But no, that was a weird Elvis lip you were trying to do.
I'm not a good Elvis.
You did. You got a weird laugh, and you just move your jaw in a weird. Hold on. Let's kill the intro
No,
music.
this is
Let's
not
everyone get quiet.
attractive.
Todd. Todd is Elvis Presley.
Oh, see, the crowd recognizes
No.
it.
No, I can't even. I'm not gonna be able to kiss you today. Like that, it's ruined everything for me.
The only thing I know,
was.
only thing I know about Elvis, I grew up with my best friend growing up was Derek Honestchuck.
Yes.
And his mom, Jackie Honestchuck, she was a huge Elvis fan. And
Okay.
So that's all I know of Elvis is like her clock that had his like little hips
The hips
moving
would
or
go,
whatever.
yeah.
You know?
That's all you know
Yeah.
about Elvis.
I mean, I know more than that,
So
but that's where that's,
Oh, you're dialing it in now.
I had that. Yeah,
That was a little better.
Took a while.
Before
Took
you
a
were
while.
going, It was so bad. Okay, across the table, producer Christian, how's it going, man?
Hey, everybody.
Do you have any comments on Elvis?
I do not.
Okay, to my right is Megan. Megan, good day, madam. Again.
Good day, sir. I have gum.
You have gum right now?
Yeah.
You're chewing gum during the podcast?
I had it under my tongue, but my breath is fresh.
Do you always chew gum while you do?
This is often, yeah.
You do?
Oh, that's
do.
like number one rule.
That is number one rule.
But do you ever hear me? I don't chew it during
Producer
the podcast.
Christian,
I just put it under my
we
tongue.
need a ruling on chewing gum during
Have
the
I
podcast.
ever bothered you?
That is a negative.
That's a no-go?
But
You
if I
would
don't
have
hear
never
it,
known.
then she's
You would
a
have never
quiet
known.
chewer, which is fine.
I don't even chew it. I tuck it away
You tuck it away for
for the minty
safekeeping.
freshness.
Yeah.
Really?
It makes me feel better.
Just don't.
I didn't know that. We were
I've never
130
noticed.
some episodes in, and I didn't know Megan chews gum during
Surprise.
the podcast.
Me either.
It's not. It's
But
not
have you
supposed to be.
noticed my minty fresh breath?
Nope.
Oh, yeah,
all
I
the
did
time.
Haven't noticed that either.
Yeah.
Oh, you have, Christian? Okay.
I always smell your microphone when you're done.
I know you
Yeah.
do, creepy Elvis
So
over
weird.
there.
When I smell
Creepy
that
Elvis.
microphone.
Wow, this is gone.
We have Chris Waters with us today. Chris, are you chewing gum right now?
No, man, I'm
See?
not. It's funny you brought that up though. Like, I actually was chewing gum, like walking down the aisle for my wife and I's wedding.
Oh, yeah?
I'm like standing up at the altar waiting for my wife, and I'm like, oh shit, I have gum in my mouth. This is being recorded. I'm gonna hear about this for the next
Yes.
50 years of my life.
So you swallowed
Did you
it.
swallow
I
it?
no, and I put it in my hand and like toss it out to the side.
Wait a second. Hold on.
Did you like hit an unsuspecting victim in the crowd?
No. So it was an outdoor
Okay,
venue.
okay.
Okay.
And it was like over Lake Travis in Austin, and so I did it very inconspicuously so nobody would notice.
That's awesome.
It's
It'd be-
just hanging from his priest like chin.
Yeah, that's right.
Oops.
I
You
thought
stepped in
somebody'd
it.
be like in a church and be like, "Oh, I stepped in gum."
Sat in it
Oh,
in the
how
pew
this-
or
The
something.
bride.
The bride steps in gum.
You'd hear
Oh,
about
that's a
that
good
for the next
story.
50 years too.
So did you chuck it before you walked down the aisle or after?
I was already at the altar and I had to chuck it.
Wow, that's
How-
amazing. That's pretty smooth.
I'm impressed. Is there video of you chucking it where you're like, "That's where I chucked it, right there"?
You know, I actually haven't thought about looking for that moment in the video, but I think
Oh, you
I
have to.
go back and
Holy
look.
shit.
You have to. That would be interesting because there's not like a natural wedding motion, like
No.
throwing something out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking people probably were like, "What did he just do? Did he spasm?"
It could have been like a Catholic wedding, so it's 2 hours long, and he had plenty of time to like
Plenty of
find a
opportunity.
good spot.
That's true.
I had too much to drink by the time I got up to the altar.
Well,
So I wasn't thinking clearly, and I should have probably just swallowed it versus tossing it. But
I like though that you're like, I'm going to cover up the hours
Yes.
of drinking with the gum, so that the officiant and my bride don't have a clue. So that's awesome. That's good stuff. Okay, well Chris Waters, let's talk about him. Let's talk about him. He's going to be the guy that we're chatting with today. Chris is an expert in building a team-centric brokerage, which I'm super interested in. He's the author of The $1 Million Real Estate Team. He is ranked by, and he's got it right there, boom. He is ranked by the Wall Street Journal as one of the top realtors nationwide. He did over 500 units sold in 2017. Now listen, for those of you that are dubious and say, oh, he sold $1 bajillion because of all these high-end properties. It doesn't matter. 500 units.
Right.
That's 500
Right.
transactions. That's legit baller status.
so kind of interesting is like that's just our Austin team. So I started expanding.
Yeah.
Nice.
And we're in 3 other markets now. And this year we'll close about 1,300 units.
1,300 units. All right, I'm going to finish your intro now. Are you ready? Because I'm really going to ramp up the energy. I want you to brace yourself. Are you okay? You ready? All right, so let's say about 1,300 units or so in 2018. Ladies and gentlemen, the master of marketing, the king of Austin, Chris Waters, everybody! Oh, that is good. That is good, Chris.
Yes.
Okay.
I love y'all's energy.
Dude, so those are some like that's hardcore
Those are
numbers.
giant
Just a
numbers.
small
Giant.
1,300. No big deal.
We just got instantly nervous because we didn't realize that you were just so dominant. And now we're extra scared of you.
Yep.
So
Super intimidated.
so if you could just speak in calm, soothing tones for this interview, that would be great. No, okay, but you held up the book. Let's talk about the book. The subtitle of your book is How I Went from Zero to Earning $1 Million After Expenses in 3 years. So for those of us that are just getting to know you, what's the Cliff Notes version of like what that story is and how you do something like that astronomical?
So there's basically like 3 standard beliefs I think most people have that I didn't have, and I had somebody I had a guy at the guy that started viral marketing share this with me. He said, Chris, there's 3 things beliefs that you didn't have that everybody else has, and he said these are the 3 reasons why you were able to do what you did. And so Frank is an amazing like sales copywriter and very articulate, and I'm going to totally botch this, but what he said to me was number 1, you fully expect agents to quit and fail. That's number 1.
Okay.
I fully expect the agents that join my team to quit and fail. So when people are recruiting agents, like they pour everything into them, and and they're disappointed when they leave, and they think that they're going to hire an agent and they're going to stay with them for like 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
So in the team model, like it serves a very specific purpose, and like the typical lifespan of like a buyer's agent, for example, on a team is about 2.5 to 3.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard Tony Robbins say that happiness comes from progress. And so when you're running a team, if you can't give people progress, by year 3, for example, like what else are they going to do? Like if they're already selling, 35, 40, 45 homes, like kicking everybody's ass in the market, comparatively speaking, with most agents selling, 4, 5, 6 homes a year.
Right.
What's the upward trajectory for them? And in the team model, either they have to become a team leader, or you could try shifting them to the listing side, which maybe they enjoy, maybe they don't. So, there's only a limited number of leadership positions available in a team, and your team leadership positions are, that's a 1 in 1,000 hire. So for the most part, most of the people on your team are going to quit because they're not going to have upward trajectory, they're not going to have the ability to continue to have upward trajectory after years 3, 4, et cetera. Or they're going to fail. So like 30, 60, 90 days in, they realize like, hey, I don't like prospecting and keeping up with my pipeline, and maybe I don't like the sales process, whatever. So that was, that's one thing like I figured out really early, is that most, there's the team model serves a very specific purpose, and you can only take people so far. And then it does make sense for them to move on to a different type of brokerage model for them to take that next step in their growth or their career.
Right.
So that was number 1. The second thing Frank told me was, he said, Chris, a lot of agents think they need credibility to recruit agents. So I started recruiting agents, and I'll tell you how briefly my story. I got my license in 2006 out of college, and I worked for Keller Williams for 4 months, and then I quit. I sold 6 houses in those 4 months, and got out of the industry. I kept my real estate license active, and in 2010 I got back in. And in 2010, because I had my license active, I was able to go and get my broker's license. And like ignorance, purest form of bliss. Because I started a brokerage. I was sleeping on my girlfriend's couch at the time. In 2009, I had invested in a bar and restaurant. It went totally bust. I lost every dollar to my name. And I just had way too much pride to go live back with my parents. I was 25 at the time. And so I was like, man, I'm just going to sleep on her couch and do whatever it takes to succeed. She's my wife now, which is pretty cool. So, in 2010, I went to an event called Rain Camp, and Ben Kinney was a speaker. And Ben Kinney in 2010 mentioned Boomtown. And in 2010, Boomtown was like this up-and-coming platform. Lots of people know about it now, but in 2010, nobody did. And so I got Boomtown on a credit card, and I had only sold 6 houses at that time. I was able to get my broker's license. How the hell they gave it to me, I don't know still. But I recruited so I fired up the Boomtown system, and it started generating a crap ton of leads for me, because back then you could generate leads for free through Craigslist. So I was generating like 500 or 600 leads a month, and I'm like, man, I can't handle all these leads.
Right.
So in the summer of 2010, I got my broker's license and went out and started recruiting agents. So I got 20 agents on board in 90 days, and I'd only sold 6 houses. And so Frank said to me, he said, most agents think they need to have sold a crap ton of houses to recruit and train agents.
Right.
That's really not the case. I'm a case study of why you don't need credibility, you don't need brand awareness to recruit agents. You just need leads. That's what you need, leads. What keeps the agents around long term is obviously training, and there's more to it than that. But you can get the momentum going without having to have some background of selling 100, 200 homes a year, 300 homes a year, etc.
And you like at that time you said that you really honestly was your sales pitch to these agents that you're recruiting is just simply, I will give you leads, and a whole lot of them.
Yep.
That's what it was. Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I like it.
So the third limiting belief that most agents have, Frank said, was that I didn't pay attention to, was that you need money from you need your commission dollars from selling homes to use to pay for lead generation. Right? You need to close deals to have money for lead generation.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I wasn't closing any deals.
But you had a credit card.
So the way I got the money was I started going after local small and medium-sized business owners and getting them to contribute into like a marketing kitty. So, like your roofer, your foundation guy, countertop guy, lender, homeowners insurance, all these different vendors. And I started putting on like a monthly little mastermind. It only started off with like 2 or 3 people. And, I raised a couple $1,000s within that 90 days. So like summer of 2010, I'm recruiting like crazy. I'm telling all these agents they need to start on August 1st. I'm trying to raise money like crazy to pay for leads. And then August 1, I turn it all on. So I had a couple $1,000s come in from the vendors. I put that money into the Boomtown site to pay for more leads and help cover the cost of the platform. And I was off to the races. So anyways, I think those are the 3 biggest limiting beliefs people have that are preventing them from growing and building a team. And the book is really just about my journey. So the way the book came about was I met Frank with Viral Marketing, and he's like, Chris, I've never met anybody that has scaled the team model as fast as you. We got to 325 closings with only like 10 salespeople in a matter of 3 years. We got to 325 in a single year.
Wow.
And in year 4, we got to 500, just like 496 transactions. And Frank said, man, I've never met anybody that's done this as fast. And so he's like, I want to interview you and I want to get it recorded. And like, I think you should put this in a book. So he interviewed me for 11 hours.
Wow.
Like one sitting, like one day?
3 days.
3 days, okay.
So Frank lives in Coronado, and we literally sat on the beach behind the Dell on Coronado Island, the Del Hotel,
Nice.
and like did it in like 3, 4, 5 hour increments.
Wow.
And Frank is his wife. His wife's dad is a regional partner in KW. Frank has 500 clients that are real estate agents teams. So like and he's been in it 10 plus years. So like he knows a lot of the right questions to ask.
Yeah.
So I got he recorded all this stuff and we transcribed it into a Word file, and then I spent the next year like basically like slicing and dicing it and like trying to make sense of all the content, and it ultimately ended up becoming like the journey that I went through, like the things I talk about, like the things that worked and then the things that failed massively in the book. So it's not all like, hey, you need to do this and you do this. It's like, hey, this worked, this didn't work, this is why.
That's good.
And then there's something I kind of figured out in a team model is there's like 3 very distinctive phases of growth you go through. Like there's certain challenges you have to solve to go from like 0 to 150 deals, and then there's a different group of challenges you got to solve to go from 150 to 300,
Right.
and then 3 to 5. And so the book's kind of broken up into these 3 phases of growth, and then it just talks about like the journey we went through in those 3 phases and the levers we had to push and pull to be able to go to that next stage.
Are you, Chris, if you don't mind me asking, are you actively selling still, or are you just kind of the rainmaker at this point?
So in the summer of 2013 is the last time I went on a listing appointment.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now it's just setting the course for the team. Are you still doing like recruiting, retention stuff or things like that?
Nope.
Even?
Nope. So we have a full-time recruiter. We have a trainer. We talked about that in the book. There's some like Gary Keller, his book MREA, amazing, like best in the industry. But I found some holes in that book. Like in his organizational chart, if you lose one of those people, like your business collapses. Like
Right.
you go from business owner back to having a job again.
Yeah.
And so to have a bulletproof business and something that's actually sellable one day, like it actually needs to be a lot bigger than that organizational chart, shows in the book. And the other thing that the book doesn't talk about is the importance of recruiting on an ongoing basis. And so like in building a team, like you got to think about it a lot like lead generation, like the top of the funnel are your leads coming in from like .com, Google AdWords, Facebook, etc. And then your next phase is like you got the leads that actually have good information that aren't Mickey Mouse, and then you got the leads you actually talk to, and you figure out which ones you want to meet with, right? And then you got to go meet them face to face, get the buyer rep signed, so that becomes a smaller sliver at the bottom of the funnel. And then at the very end of the funnel are your closed deals, right? So like there's a funnel to building your talent bench on the team model. And what I've learned from just talking to other team leaders and stuff like that I'll struggle with recruiting is they only onboard like 1 or 2 people at a time.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is like you think because you have less people to manage, you're going to make them more successful. And so like something I talked about in the book was like I wanted success so much more for others than they wanted for themselves. And I got to a point where like, man, I started like researching like psychologist shit, and I was like, fuck, I'm on the complete wrong path here because I ain't no damn shrink. I learned the word cognitive behavioral therapy, like because you meet salespeople and like you want to help them, like what to tell them to do to have massive success, and they don't do it. You're like, WTF?
Yeah.
And so like I started researching on this stuff about cognitive behavioral therapy, and then I read a line on there that changed my life forever. It said that psychologists that use cognitive behavioral therapy, this process and methodology takes years and years to work. And I was like, holy shit. I'm going to be a shrink for years and years. So it really, so between reading that and then like, realizing that I had read NAR's statistic that only 1 out of 5 agents make it in the first year.
Right.
And like, I thought I could be the exception again, because I was like, had a smaller team, whatever. But like, as your sample size grows, like if you think about statistics, as your sample size grows, you get to a truer form of the real average.
Yeah.
And so like I was setting unrealistic expectations for myself. And so the process like I really got good at was hiring in groups of 5 because I knew 1 out of those 5 would be a
Yeah.
rock star.
I love it.
And then the other piece is like you have to, so getting your license, there's no barrier to entry to get your real estate license. And so you've got to create an internal barrier to entry for your company based off, like for example, like their core values and like, you want to, you want to build a team of people that are all kind of similar, right? It's like in the jungle, if an ape is beating his chest, other apes are going to come around to see what's going on. They're going to get excited, right? So like you need to, when you're building culture, it's all about finding people with similar core values so that, people jump out of bed and want to come to the office and they feel excited to be in the office. Because it's tough to manage agents. They're 1099 and like, technically they have to come to the office every day. So you have to create that environment. So basically like we created this kind of vetting process and in these very specific attributes we look for in people between day 0 and 30 and then 30 through 90. And then, we tell people on day 1, hey, look, like we want all you guys to be successful, but it's highly likely only 1 out of 5 of you guys is going to think that at the end of 90 days, this is a win-win. And so we just, we're just real transparent with everybody. And, just having those key attributes in place help you make sure that the people that do get out in 90 days, those are your lifers that are going to stay. And then when I say lifers, they're going to stay with you for 2.5, 3.5, 4 years. That's kind of
Yeah.
And then you'll get lucky with the rare find that becomes like a leader in your business and helps you grow to the next stage. So anyways, that's kind of the things we talk about in the book. And these are all the little nuggets we picked up along the way. So
Wow.
Gosh. I'm so happy right now.
I know, that's awesome.
Chris, we just want to make you our best friend. We've got a team.
We're best friends now, Chris.
We're best friends. Did we just become best friends?
I think we just became best friends.
I want to spend 13 hours on a beach in Coronado.
Seriously?
That's right. Hey, we are in hour number 1 of our 13-hour interview with Chris Waters, everybody.
That is amazing. Yeah, when you're ready to do number 2, we'll just meet you there, and we'll spend days and days. This is so good. I'm like so excited right now. Everything you say. So we have a team here in Indianapolis, and it's pretty progressive for our area, and we think outside the box. And a lot of the stuff that you're saying, we're doing that, pushing the envelope, but not at the level that you're doing at. And a lot of the things you're saying, our mindset is that way, but you're just like this next step or this next thought, which is super exciting. Okay, I have a question for you. When you look at, I'm just so pumped. When you look at the outlook of real estate right now, obviously teams are what we think the way to go, and you probably think that as well. But where does the brokerage fit into that? And what do you think is going to happen in the next few years as this stuff kind of blossoms and grows and catches on more?
So two things, like I for one, like when I was very ignorant to go start a brokerage. And like, I never understood the difference between the teams and the brokerages, right? Like, I just like the team is a brokerage, like they're a freaking company,
Yeah.
And so like, there's a lot of these teams underneath Keller Williams, for example, or Remax, and they're underneath this umbrella. And like, the only thing like I saw that the brokerage did for the team, and again, I'm super ignorant because I was with the KW for 4 months.
Sure.
And so I have a lot of ignorance around what brokerages do and the value they provide. And so from my ignorant perspective, it just seemed like the only thing the broker did was provide a layer of like a security blanket, like in case you ever got sued, right?
Yeah.
And so like, I went and I contacted a broker a attorney that specializes in representing brokers. Like he represents all the big brokers in town. And I'm like, hey, look, what do I do to prevent myself from getting sued? I've only sold 6 houses. Like I got 28 coming up.
Yeah.
I keep myself from going in even more debt.
Yeah.
And he said, dude, it's simple. You go and get an E&O insurance policy. And I said, okay, well, so what happens when I get sued? He's like, well, you call me and you tell your insurance company, like, hey, you're getting sued. And the insurance company will pay out just like car insurance, whatever it costs for your screw up. And so as long as you're not doing anything like negligent where you're like, trying to screw a consumer, you're in a pretty good position, no matter what the litigation involves, to be able to go to your E&O carrier. And it's not hard to get E&O insurance. And the other thing is it's crazy cheap. A friend of mine who has a really successful business under a brokerage, said he had to pay $80,000 to the brokerage in E&O fees, like per transaction. And he's like, how much do you pay in E&O? And I said, I paid $8,000 in E&O last year. And that's for $300 million in gross sales volume.
Yeah.
And,
Wow.
and 1,300 transactions. He's like, holy shit. So I never understood the difference between the brokerage and the team, except for that layer of security. But then that's what you have the damn insurance for.
Right.
And then as long as you make sure you're hiring people that are ethical, that aren't gonna screw people over, I think you're going to be in a pretty good position. So I think like the traditional big box brokerage that has just crap tons of agents is definitely going to go by the wayside.
Right.
The market's getting incredibly, it's getting even more competitive because Wall Street is infusing it with billions of dollars through Redfin, Open Door, Compass. There's a lot of these like niches being created to solve very specific motivations, for example, of why people sell their house. Like, for example, Open Door, right? They will buy your house for cash, instant offer, and they pay a pretty good price on what they're going to pay for your house. And so they're definitely appeasing the part of that market that is looking for the convenience factor. So, ultimately, as there's more and more brokerages like appeasing very specific motivations for people. It's just going to make brokerage like even more incredibly competitive, and it's going to be very hard for your average agent that's an independent agent that's kind of captain everything, right? They have to do their own lead generation, their transaction coordinator, they do all their own marketing, etc. That person, it's going to be very hard for them to compete because they're going to be competing against these juggernauts. They're going to compete against teams that have lots of money. I spend $100,000 a month in lead generation in Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
So, if you're an average agent, how are you going to compete?
Yeah.
Right.
And then what if one of your friends calls up and says, hey, I have to get this house sold in 2 weeks because I'm going to get foreclosed on, and either they call your friend that's the average Joe agent, or they could call OfferPad and get an offer within 24 hours. Like, what are they going to do?
Yeah.
So it's like every little niche is just getting like that nth degree of more competitive. So yeah, the world, it's a tough world out there for the traditional brokerage.
What I like about that, the one thing, there's a lot of things to take away, but my favorite thing was that you went to an attorney and said, how do I keep from getting sued? And he said, you can't. Get insurance.
Get insured. Yeah, that's the reality,
That's
right?
part of it.
I thought you were going to say he used the word juggernaut, which is amazing.
I do love the word juggernaut.
That was my favorite.
I like that word.
Underused term. Hey, let me ask you this. So we talked a lot about hiring. When you're hiring all these people, you're hiring 5 at a time or whatnot. Is there a time that do you typically just say, I know this person will burn out, or is there a time where it's nope, we need to cut them?
So there's 3 phases of the process, and I've been getting a lot of people like Facebooking me. Like I could probably get 3, 4, 5 messages a day, people asking me about this whole like recruiting funnel. And so I finally agreed to do like a little 90-day little training thing for super cheap for people. But there's a lot more to it, but I'll give you like the 10,000 foot view.
Yeah.
So the first interview needs to be about, number one, you need to walk into that interview acting like a buyer. And you need to ask yourself, how does this person make me feel? Because if you're going to give that person leads, that's how they're going to make those buyers feel.
That's a good point.
So very simplistically, walk in and ask yourself, how does this person make me feel?
Yeah.
Second thing you want to do in the interview process is really understand like what they really value as a human being. Like what's important to them. Like if they tell you they got into real estate for flexibility and the freedom of the schedule, I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, you coming to the wrong place. So that the core value thing's super important. And then the third thing is like just trying to understand their trajectory. Like I'll ask somebody, hey, tell me, like we actually have this form we have them fill out, and we ask them to like start thinking about when you graduated high school, and tell me year by year after you graduated high school, like what was the major event of that year? What did you learn? What did you earn? And was it a positive or negative year? And like you're trying to find people that are on the upward trajectory path, and they show intention and desire to want to have upward trajectory, in their life. Because those are the ones that are going to be coachable and they're going to have success on your team. People normally don't just wake up one day and be like, all right, I'm gonna be a Navy SEAL tomorrow.
Right.
Like normally doesn't use there's normally doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So that's what you do in the interview process. So that's as simple as you want to keep it. We tested like doing like tons of interviews, like group interviews with everybody in the team and like all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And you need to keep it more of like kind of an open door policy if they pass those 3 tick marks. Because in the first 30 days, there's only one thing you're really looking for in those first 30 days, and it's how committed are they? So are they showing up every day? If they miss one day, we kick them out and they have to start all over. So the first measure is how committed are they in the first 30 days. And then the second measure, and this is the last thing in the first 30 days we look for, is how do they make other people on the team feel? Because I'm sure you guys have seen it. Like you've been in organizations where you got like that negative Nelly that like sits back, like talk shit or whatever. Yeah. And like that becomes a cancer in your organization. So you've got to really look at these little tiny like moments of interaction between these new team members. Like, do they hold the door open for each other? Are they high-fiving? Are they collaborating with one another? Like those are the attributes of people that are going to, be great team players and great culture. So those are the 2 things in days 0 through 30. And then days 30 through 90, that is when you actually learn how truly coachable somebody is. You might think maybe like 0 through 30, you learn how coachable they are. But if you've probably heard that saying that to build a habit, it takes 66 days, right? Yeah. And so like they're going to learn a lot in days 0 through 30, and you're not going to know if they're going to be truly coachable and commit to the things you're teaching them until days 30 through 90. So usually like what ends up happening in terms of the funnel is like between days 0 and 30, most people just quit. Like they'll say, man, I had no idea I was going to have to spend half my day following up with all these leads. And, I get anxiety about getting ready to go meet somebody. Like you just have all these people bring up all these things. And so like half of them end up leaving, raising their hands, and this isn't what I thought real estate was. They thought it was just showing houses, whatever. And then between days 30 and 90, you start figuring out who's coachable. So like you'll have the person that you tell them the same thing 3 times, and then they may go ask other people on the team to try to get a different answer. And like those are the ones you got to cut.
I'm thinking of people.
I know you can't
that
help
I literally
but
know right
the
now.
people.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
So true.
Terry.
No, not the person you're thinking of, Todd. Wow. Okay. That's awesome. So, keep going. No, go ahead. Did you have more on that?
That's the gist, man.
That's
30
the gist.
90 coachability, and that's what you're looking for.
Dude, that's so good. So I know like we're running out of our time with you, which again, we're still only in hour 1 of the 11 to 13 hours we want to talk to you. We have a lot of people that listen to our show that are pretty new to the business, or maybe the first couple of years, that are just getting started and are now thinking about, now I want to start a team. This is an interesting thing to me. They've been inspired from our conversation with you. How would you tell them to start? What do they need to do to get rolling with that?
I'm not the one that said this. Like Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. Like there's so many damn books out there that have been around for like 100 years, and every single one of them says, your shortcut to success is find the person that is where you want to be and go model them. So my advice is, if you want to go build a team, go find whoever has the biggest, baddest team that you can work with and learn from them. So, I do shit like ass backwards. And so I can tell you, like, this is not the approach I took, and I got my ass kicked like over and over and over. Yeah. Like I thought that I could like reinvent the wheel and get all innovative and all this shit. And then like, I ended up not having any progress at all. So like you've got to build a solid foundation to start. And then once you have a solid foundation and ultimately revenue to have momentum, then you can start testing and, trying new things. Yeah. But like when you're building a business, you want to implement proven processes and systems and not go try to reinvent the wheel. Yeah. I heard I was watching Shark Tank, and Damon John on Shark Tank said, pioneers get slaughtered and settlers prosper.
Oh, that's good. That's good, man.
That's
So don't feel like you got to go figure shit out on your own. Like, go find somebody that's already figured it out.
Yeah.
And I mean, the real estate community is pretty cool. Like, everybody's pretty open, transparent. But the other thing is there has to be an exchange of value. Like, don't go like try to work. Don't go and try to get a coach for free. Like, I did all that shit. I was like researching online, trying to figure all this out online, reading stuff. And it wasn't until I was actually, paying money that I actually respected and took it really seriously and really committed to implementing the things I learned through coaching. So that's single-handedly the biggest piece of advice I can give anybody is find somebody to partner with. There's a lot of great coaching organizations out there in the real estate industry. So that's your shortcut to success.
I love it. That's awesome, man. Okay, so for people that want to know more about you, that maybe want to look into your book or into that 90-day funnel you talked about, where do you want people to reach out, find you, connect with you?
Yeah, so I'm really not trying to get in the coaching business. My whole thing is all about building teams, and you can get the book on. You can either get it on Amazon. It's also available on Audible. It's the $1 Million Real Estate Team. Is there here?
Love it.
And you can get on Amazon. If you want to get a signed copy,
Ooh.
you can go to wirbook.com and get a signed copy.
Dude.
Awesome.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Love
Chris
it.
Waters. Oh, yeah.
Hey.
Thanks, Chris. We appreciate it. We want to hear
That's
from
awesome.
you. Email info@boomrealestatepodcast.com. Check out our YouTube as well, and you can get our 30-day jump start at boom30.com.
Yes.
But really, get out there and start your dominant team and go sell 1,300 homes this year, right?
Yes.
Oh, Chris, good stuff. We will see you next time on the Boom Real Estate Podcast.
I'm going to emulate Chris. I'm going right now to get my hair cut.
Oh, yeah.
Like his.
Thanks, guys.
He's got a good haircut.
Good hair.